This is All India Radio. You will now hear comments from the press. The Times of India, in its editorial title, Brexit Extension writes European Union leaders have granted the United Kingdom a 6-month extension to implement Brexit. The new deadline for the UK to leave the European bloc is now October 31st. This comes after British Prime Minister Theresa May had to request for an extension after her Brexit withdrawal agreement agreed to between London and Brussels last year was rejected by the British Parliament for the third time on March 29th. But British MPs have also voted against leaving EU without a deal. A no-deal Brexit would be disastrous for the UK, causing much disruption to trade, businesses and people. The contradictions that have surfaced during the Brexit process, particularly within the ruling Conservative Party, exemplify a loss of faith and direction. If the withdrawal agreement cannot be ratified almost 3 years after the Brexit referendum, then there is a need to consider other options. May is already talking to opposition Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn to break the impasse. This opens the door to an even softer Brexit. However, this in turn could see May face another leadership challenge from hard Brexiteers within her party. A change of PM at this point will only add to the confusion. The Indian Express, in its editorial titled No Dark Spaces, says the Supreme Court's decision to consider the documents published in the media on the Rafale deal purely on their relevancy is not merely a welcome dismissal of the centre's objections over judicial scrutiny of these papers. It is more significantly a reaffirmation of the freedom of expression and the people's right to know. In March, Attorney General K.K. Venugopal had sought the dismissal of a petition calling for a review of the court's verdict last year in the Rafale case on the grounds that the petitioners relied on documents published by the Hindu newspaper in February that were stolen from the Defence Ministry. He later retracted those claims and alleged that the newspaper had published unauthorized photocopies. The publication of these documents, the AG had held, amounted to a violation of the Official Secrets Act (OSA). But on Wednesday, a 3-judge bench led by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi ruled that there was nothing in the OSA or any other law that restrains publication of documents marked as secret or placing such documents before a court. The AG had contended that the government had privilege over the documents pertaining to the Rafale deal with France. He had argued that the petitioners could not produce these documents in the court because their disclosure is exempted under Section 8(1) of the RTI Act. But on Wednesday, the Apex Court ruled that these exemptions do not come in the way of disclosure of the official documents if there is an overriding public interest. The verdict reanimates the principle of open disclosure envisaged in the RTI Act and underscores its preeminence vis-a-vis the archaic OSA. In a separate judgment that concurred with the main verdict, Justice K.M. Joseph noted that the RTI Act confers upon citizens the right to demand information, even in respect of such matters as security of the country and relations with a foreign state, provided the applicant can establish that withholding such information produces greater harm than disclosing it. He cleared the air on the restrictions on the right to information in matters of national security. Section 24 of the RTI Act declares that even though information available with intelligence and security organizations is generally outside the purview of the open disclosure regime contemplated under the RTI Act, if the information pertains to allegations of corruption or human rights violations, such information is very much available to be sought for under the Act. The Supreme Court has consistently expanded and enlivened the citizens' right to scrutinize government decision-making and sought to ensure that those who expose corruption and wrongdoing are not vulnerable to intimidation. Wednesday's verdict should be seen in this light. Its importance, therefore, extends far beyond the Rafale case. The judgment, as Justice Joseph pointed out, is about the attainment of highest levels of probity in public life. The Economic Times, in its editorial title, Will Earth Become a Planet of the Apes, says, if gene-edited babies are not met with cheers of approbation from the world at large, then try modifying the next best creature, the monkey. At least that appears to be the thinking among Chinese scientists who have recently created a transgenic monkey whose DNA has the human gene that is supposedly linked to the development of intelligence. That would seem to be the layman and monkey to be akin to handing over the key of evolution to the one species that can rival Homo sapiens for, well, world domination. In other words, Planet of the Apes, the revolution begins. However, a new breed of super monkeys whose brains evolved just like human ones, slower but with faster reaction times and short-term memory, increases the chances of such experiments getting out of hand, therefore becoming more than just a popular cinematic ploy. Of course, it all depends on whether such even monkey ever escapes from a laboratory to start a simian